All right, champ. All right, buddy. Welcome back to another episode of I Can Do This All Day. This is Dan the Part-Time Avenger. That's Mark the Resident Jedi.
Hello there. Today, as one of us is fully on in dad mode. Apparently this podcast is a cool dad and a really middle-aged, disappointed Asian father. I don't know. For those of you watching us on YouTube, you'll see it. You'll see it. But we want to acknowledge the fact that it is the day after Father's Day and that we're both fairly proud fathers.
It is Father's Day, and this is our Father's Day episode. This is our first Father's Day dedicated episode, if I'm not mistaken. I don't think we've done a themed one in the past. What better way to celebrate Father's Day than to have a list? We started off this podcast with a list, and we'll continue to do lists, just like Oscar Schindler and Liam Neeson. Do you know how Liam Neeson got the part in Schindler's List?
Did he make a list?
He said he was just really good at making lists. So
I will say that we apologize in advance if this is not the episode you wanted, and if that you wish that we were talking about really cool movies. But there's a writer's strike, and there really aren't any cool movies right now.
We are going to be talking about some really cool movies because we are doing best and worst fathers in movies. So not only are we going to be talking about a few good movies, we're going to be talking about 10 plus. You want to talk about how we kind of talked about and formulated this list, Mark, and what your thoughts and opinions are on fathers in movies?
Well, I mean, when we put this list together, we thought, why just talk about a few good movies when you could talk about a few good men? And we thought that it being a day to celebrate fathers, that we should give props to those that display positive parenting examples in movies. Because let's be honest, positive examples are hard to come by. But we also needed to call out the toxic shitheads because, there's the opposite side to every coin. And let's be honest, the worst ones are the funnier ones.
You can't have the best without having the worst. So let's kick off our list of the worst fathers in movies. Coming in at the top of the list, in no specific order, but I say top of the list, Lucius Malfoy from the Harry Potter series. This piece of shit subscribes to Slytherin parenting style, which, Mark, talk a little bit about that and why we hate this character and why we think he's a shitty father.
I mean, he just wants to be a shithead to his son all the time, pushing him down, dragging him down. He just wants to be a normal person, but he makes him use all of the negativity and just, he really likes snakes.
And that kind of is like the Slytherin parenting style, right? Slytherin doesn't have the best reputation. No one wants to be in that house except for the bad boys. And I'm cool with the Slytherin house. It doesn't really matter to me. I think they have the cooler mascot out of everyone, or the crest. But when it comes to another reason why he's just a shitty dad, doesn't allow employee attire. Mark, talk a little bit about that for those that are not Harry Potter nerds.
I mean, he has slaves that are little elves, and they wear sacks, right? I mean, when one of them gets a sock and celebrates, you know that there's something really wrong there. And who could really mistreat Dobby? Let's be honest.
Well, he's a free elf and a dead elf now, so maybe he would have been better off with the master. Lucius Malfoy runs and hides when his family needs him the most. He's a very strong character, a very intimidating character, but when it comes to the master, he's just a flat out cuck, and he decides to run and hide whenever he who shall not be named decides to flex his muscle.
I think there's a direct correlation to his screen time and to the actual living presence of Voldemort in these movies, right? Once the snake in his arm starts dancing, he needs to go in his special room under the stairs. He heads to the safe room. He doesn't, he lets his wife do the talking and do the parenting as well. He's a bad dad.
So afraid that he's just like, yeah, my son's up for it. Yeah. he's just projecting because he's not up for it and he's hoping his son is up for it, even though he knows that his son is a shithead and it's because of him as a father. Lucius Malfoy, we do not salute you. But going down this list, Arnold. Who doesn't love Arnold? But he is a pretty bad father in Jingle All the Way as Howard Langston. Prioritizes work over his son's Christmas gifts.
I
Ugh.
mean, Howard, what a jerk. What a jerk. He couldn't even get the Turbo Man. All he needed was to go get the Turbo Man. He could have paid an employee to go get the Turbo Man. Not only does he turn Jake Lloyd into an evil Jedi, he also disappoints Tom Hanks' wife. Like, what the hell? Just the worst in this movie.
Have you ever had like a late Christmas gift because you, in hindsight, you knew that like, oh, they just want to go buy that right now?
It's not because they were a bad parent. Maybe they did a bad job of hiding it. But I distinctly remember as a kid finding the stash of Ninja Turtles toys I was going to get and being super stoked about it. But I apparently didn't put them back right, or like I left some evidence that I had observed what was going on. So I got different Ninja Turtle toys and was surprised and disappointed because I was stoked on the ones I was going to get. Like, it was already a win. Take the win. But no, Howard had no wins, was nothing, and ended up bullying people into getting what he needed to do, and haphazardly jumped into a random deadly rocket pack situation because he
Awful.
couldn't keep a promise to his son.
Awful. Yeah, constant broken promises is another thing. Sure, everyone breaks a promise every now and then. But for his son around the holiday season and for him to recognize it and just accept the fact that he just always breaks his promises and then he gets his hopes back up and then what happens again? Just gets disappointed.
I mean,
gosh.
as a dad, when you see the kid just, dad's not coming again, like, that makes you feel bad. I mean, as a dad who tries to, I mean, I don't have to show up to much. The kid's not that old, but like, how does that not make you feel like shit?
And keep in mind, he was the boss. He could left work
Right?
whenever he wanted. It's not like he was like a worker bee and just continuing on. It's like, yeah, sorry, I couldn't make it because my boss, my prick of a boss, wouldn't let me go to my son's recital or whatever it was. But no, he's the guy. He's the one who makes the rules.
Learn to delegate, you narcissist fuck.
Broken promises. And then the last one, treats neighbors like shit. Talk a little bit about that, Mark.
I mean, how could you be mean to Phil Hartman? Phil Hartman is the best. He is the reason all of the neighborhood people are happy, especially the female neighborhood participants. I mean, I get you're a little upset that he's trying to give your wife an extra special Yule log, but man, you left that opportunity open yourself through neglect and broken promises. Don't hate the player, hate the game.
That's I don't know if I necessarily agree with you on that. Treating the neighbors like shit is okay in my book if they're trying to put their pork in my wife's beans. So that's just where I look at it.
I mean, but are you going to steal from the neighborhood kids because you neglected to get your kid a Turbo Man?
Yeah, I mean, hey, Howard Langston, played by Arnold Schwarzenegger, not a great dad. In the end, it kind of worked out, but I bet you that next day when he was at work, guess what? Little son has another broken promise. Like, hey, is dad coming home for dinner tonight? Like, oh yeah, he will be. He's Turbo Man. He'll be back.
I mean, you know what really happened at the end of that movie, right? He hit the rocket booster button and he jettisoned directly into a building and died. And this was just his dream as he descended to the pits of hell for terrible dadness. No, it all worked out.
The worst dad is like if he was still holding his son Jamie as they just flew into a building. But worst dad. Not, well, maybe not the worst, but let's see.
Yeah, it could get worse.
Jack Torrance in The Shining. Oh, it does get worse. So here's Johnny, Jack Nicholson playing Jack Torrance, physically abusive, broke Danny's arm for God's sake. How bad of a dad are you if you break your son's arm?
Well, and you have
Not
your
by
wife making excuses about it. Like that's like an uncomfortable moment in this movie that
yeah.
like something's not right. Not only are you moving your family all over the country for I don't know what reason, like I can't think as the patriarch of a family about taking a job where I literally maroon my entire family for the entirety of the holiday season at a random resort. Then on top of that, he tries to fucking murder them.
That's I guess that's a bad thing, right? Probably not a good thing.
I mean, it's not. I think that society frowns upon axe murdering.
He didn't necessarily succeed.
He
Ugh.
gave it his, but he pushed it. He pushed it real good.
I wonder, great, by the way. I wonder if anyone has who has like those awful relationships with their parents or their father specifically, if they can't watch this movie because it's just like that close to home. I really pray that that's not the case, but at the same time, I know that there's some really bad people out there, really bad dads, and unfortunately, kids, and uh, they just had to go through that. So,
I
but
mean,
yeah.
isn't this a victory for all of those victims that in the end he gets his just desserts? I mean, they say that revenge is a dish best served cold, and nobody gets a more cold ending than Jack Torrance in this movie.
What's cooler than being cool? Jack Torrance in The Shining.
Oh,
And then the last bullet point is see those other two bullet points on the
is
screen
that
right
isn't that
there?
bad enough for you people? Why do we need
Yeah.
three? Stop trying to put us in a box. Nobody puts
Jeez.
baby in the corner.
All right, the next one up, we got. I just have to laugh at this picture. So you have Willem Dafoe as Norman Osborn, the Green Goblin, and Spider-Man.
Are you
What
laughing
a
because Willem Dafoe might be the most expressive facial palette in acting history? Is that it? Is it because he's got the biggest face?
the truth is that I made this very quickly, and this was the funniest picture that I saw, and I was like, "Yep, that's going on there."
That's
So
the one.
I just patting myself on the back
I don't know
for
if
that.
it's like I trusted a fart I shouldn't have look. I sat on something that may have entered a place I didn't want it to, or I pissed away the entire family fortune on gummy bears. Like I don't know what's going on here, but something bad's happened.
Yeah, and one of the classic dad tropes in not just movies but in real life, his son was never good enough for him. Never
Mm.
gave him the time of day. Like Peter Parker more, but guess what? He also tried to kill his son's best friend. He was just super pissed off at him.
All the worst examples, terrible examples of not being supportive, of being jealous, of eating before saying grace. All the worst.
Especially at Thanksgiving. I mean, come on. Come
Where's
on.
the thanks, Norman? Where's the thanks?
I had to beat an old lady with the sticks for these cranberries, but awful Norman Osborn, you're a piece of shit. But you were the bomb in Spider-Man No Way Home. All right, and we come back to Star Wars and of course Anakin Skywalker, Darth Vader in the Star Wars saga. So I'm sure a lot of people might be thinking like, wait a second, wait a second. He's a good guy, right? He turned it around. Well, let's talk about what he did in his life. So, right off the bat, tried to kill Luke, his son, multiple times.
If you
Multiple
thought
times.
Jack Torrance was bad, his kid still has his right hand.
Very true. Cut off his fucking arm. What a bad dad move, right? Like that's usually a sign of a bad dad.
And all because of Arnold treating him like crap as a child.
Uh I never really thought about this while watching it when I was younger, but not once did he ever acknowledge Leia. Not once.
Nope. Nope. And you think that Norman was bad for never thinking his son was good enough? Try not even like acknowledging that they exist. No paternity rights, nothing.
One of the true telltale signs of someone being like an awful parent is when one of the kids just knows that like it they just shrug it off like it's no big deal. And it's like cuz that's how bad of a father that they were. It's like, oh, I mean, whatever. Not once was Leia like, oh man, I wish I could see dad. Maybe I can convince him, like, no, not at all. Because she's like, nah, he's a bad dude. Not only that, he locked me in some room with a sex droid and it stuck me with a bunch of
Tortured.
needles.
Didn't even didn't even didn't even acknowledge, and then tortured.
We don't
And then
know. We
tortured.
don't, we don't know if it was torture. We don't see what happened.
Oh,
So it could have been one of those really kinky droids.
the suggestive door close says it all. Absolutely the worst.
All right. And then the last one, please, by all means, do the honors.
I mean, what worse situation? And for we're meant to encourage our children to take up their dreams, to grab onto the thing that brings them joy. But this guy just tried to drag his son into the family Sithness, just tried to bring him to the dark side at every possible turn until literally it took electric shock therapy to make him at least stop pain. Not even he couldn't even stay alive to help his kid out. Like, what the hell?
Yeah, it's just like, oh, that just woke me up. It's very similar to in Temple of Doom when you get fucking third degree burns with fire and then you wake up like, oh yeah, I probably shouldn't murder people and put them into slavery. I'm so glad you did that. So yeah,
Thank you. Thank you for that. I'll get some burn cream and we'll get you some food. Let's go.
all right. Let's go on to the best dads. All right, so we're gonna kick it off with who kind of dipped his toe in both Marvel and Star Wars, and I wouldn't even say dipped his toe, but probably just dove headfirst into both of them. Helped kick off the MCU, Jon Favreau, and also instrumental with having probably the best Star Wars show on Disney Plus with The Mandalorian.
I mean, let's just call him what he is. Friend of the podcast, Jon Favreau. A wonderful example of fatherly just presence. You talk about somebody in Chef that was failing or seen as a failure and shows his son that you can just pick up and follow your dreams. He takes him on the absolutely coolest road trip so he can experience life a little bit, gain a little perspective, and doesn't force him into any specific box. He shows him that you can do whatever you try and you should just take those risks because you don't get another shot. Got to live that life, man. YOLO.
So another great thing that I think parents in general, I think we're more cognizant of doing it now. I know my wife and I definitely have a lot more words of encouragement, but also recognize our kids' skills a whole lot more than parents did when we were younger. And not to say shame on you, those parents. It's just something that they didn't necessarily do. We definitely encourage kids a whole lot more now. And it's just kind of cool to see that on the screen, especially with like a hard ass like Carl Casper. He's a tyrant in the kitchen. And
A
is
teddy
he? I
bear at
wouldn't.
home.
Yeah, he is. And come on, he takes us on that road trip. So cool. And what better life lesson than to show your son that you can put cornstarch on your balls to help keep you cool on those hot humid nights.
I mean, think of it. He saved him from some kind of skin cancer from using talc.
And another great thing is he's sharing his passion with his son. I don't know, for all of our listeners, I want you to chime in the comments and say, if your parents ever really showed what they were passionate about, or did they just basically do their thing and let you do yours? Like that's something where I try to do that with my son, but it's a very touching moment in this to where he's talking to his son and he's just saying like, you know, uh, this is what I do. I love doing this. It's the best thing in the world to me. And it's just a very cool representation of like, yeah, I should freaking tell that to my kids because the reason why I do the job that I do and I'm good at what I do and the reason why I do this podcast is because it's a passion, something I enjoy, something I hope our listeners enjoy listening to. So, yeah, any other insight from you?
I just think that in the context of this film and as an example, being able to allow a child to see the love in work and the appreciation and passion and struggle gives such a different context than going to the office and coming home pissed off with an axe at night. Like it's such a different view. And as that kid grows into an adult, and as that adult uses his experiences to extrapolate opinions, thoughts, and motions, context is going to be so valuable. And and they're going to feel comfortable to take more risks, to pursue more things, and to eat more Cubanos.
So back to the sentimental dad in me, I think one of the things that makes Carl Casper a great dad is his willingness to kind of learn from his son, not just teach him really important life lessons and about his crafts, but is he going to make a Cubano as good as him? No. But at the same time, he's just showing a lesson in how you can be passionate about something and how you can be the best. And for his son, whether that's in the kitchen, whether it's on social media, whether it's in advertising, marketing, whatever it is, he's showing them that, hey, if you do this with passion, you're going to do all right. So that's what I like about it. And I hope to do the same thing for my kids. But on to the next pick.
On to the next.
We've got Mr. Levinstein from the American Pie series. Oh, gosh. Please
Just the
talk.
perfect dad for the awkward years of confusion and oddity that are high school. I mean, come on. A constantly positive guy who just owns his giant eyebrows. Like, just owns it, baby. That's it. Finger guns and all.
He is a cool dad, right? This is the equivalent to Amy Poehler in Mean Girls,
Oh, no.
right?
No, Amy Poehler means there's no rules and you could do whatever. There's rules. There's just empathy. Like if there's anything that is embodied in this character, it's just empathy. Like I was weird, you're weird, it's genetic, it's okay. And sometimes just telling your kids that it's okay is all that it takes, right? Is all that they need to hear, especially when they're fucking pies.
We'll just tell your mom we ate it.
That's it. That's it.
Yeah, that is something that, as I've got two young boys and 10 and 6. So as they get closer to those teenage years, my wife, I keep telling her like, "Oh, you're gonna hate the shit that you find in their rooms as they get older." And she's like, don't talk about it. Don't talk about it." It's like, you cannot put them on the spot. You better be either don't say a single thing, but you definitely do not approach them about any of the weird shit you might find in a teenage boy's room. So that's kind of where I'm at.
There's two questions. Are you adopting the Rick and Morty rule of don't just barge into a kid's room without knocking when there's a laptop in there?
I'd like to think that I am, but I think I'll probably be closer to Mr. Levinstein, where I will barge in, but just be like, "Oh, this is normal. That's okay." I don't know. I don't know if I'm gonna say what I did as a kid, but yeah, that's something that I'll definitely be an empath when it comes to that stuff. I mean, that's such an awkward age, and the way that he handled Jim's awkward sexual experimenting and all of his sexual adventures and mostly misadventures. I mean, it even comes across on screen when he's like, "Yeah, I love you, Dad." Like that's such a cool moment to where it's like, "Yeah, I felt that." And this guy's a fictional character. I love you, Mr. Levinstein, because you're so understanding of that. So good for you. Good for you. But last one is, I think this is just really important for all dads and moms out there. If you're listening, always makes an attempt. That he always makes an attempt at something to connect with his son, to lighten up the situation. Sometimes make it worse, but there's an attempt there.
I mean, effort is 90% of life, right? Just showing up is important. And he shows up, he attempts a level of vulnerability, and he acknowledges that he's there to be some part of something, right? Might not be the right way for Jim in that moment, but I mean, what would you rather have somebody that's going to show up and want to be supportive, or like, that dips out once the snake people show up? Like, Fuck that Malfoy guy.
Brian Mills in Taken. Liam Neeson, who just had a resurgence in his career, and this movie is a favorite of mine. When it came to being a dad, he will do anything for his daughter, literally anything. And one of those being an example of killing an entire sex traffic ring to get her back. If that doesn't scream good dad, I don't know what does.
This dad has a certain set of skills and he is willing to use them. I think that as parents, we all feel like our child is victimized in situations that are nowhere near as serious as this and want to take the same action. Let's get the batteries, let's get the jumper cables, and let's have some fun.
I need you to focus right now because we're going to talk about the last bullet point, and little things matter to him. So it's those little things in life that make the difference, right? He buys his daughter her favorite strawberry milkshake. I know that that is super important for kids because when I was younger, and hell, even now, I don't think that my parents would be able to say what my favorite anything was. I really don't. And this guy, even being gone in like special ops, secret missions and stuff, knows to buy her a strawberry milkshake. Even as a teenager, even as she got a little bit older, that was like an ongoing thing. They always went to go get milkshakes after he killed a bunch of people.
Just making time to create a ritual that's time just for you and your kid, that's effort. And like we said, effort is everything.
Do you have any examples that are similar to that?
I have very few good father examples, except the ones I'm building with my own son. So we have like Saturday morning cartoon time. We have cereal day, which is an awesome thing, right? Saturday mornings are for cereal, cartoons, or Mario Kart, or some combination of all of them. But just being able to share something, I think that is a ritual for you, or just a thing that you bring together with your kid is so important. What about you? Do you have a ritual? I know what I'm thinking of when I ask you this question, but I want to see what's at the top of your head.
The little things, I guess, for me, that I remember fondly is going to grab a meal. That's the big thing. Like that was our bonding. And that's kind of what I attribute some bonding to. And like, so when I take my family out for like lunches or dinners, it's not because I just want to be fat and I just want to eat all the time. It's like, no, that to me was something that I remember very significantly into incredible detail of like, yeah, we're gonna make a late night run and get, whether it's a Euro at Mickey's or drive all the way to Chinatown in Chicago and eat at a restaurant that's no longer there, Seven Treasures. But yeah, it's like that type of stuff was the little things that I think fondly of from childhood, and my dad did that. What was your guess? Was it just violent action movies that
No,
you were
I was
thinking?
talking about you and your kids. And
Oh,
in
my
my
kids.
head, I just see all of the cosplay adventures that y'all take together. I mean, talk about a ritual that is a little over the top and just fully in character.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, there's definitely some things, but as they get older, and also as we're trying to be, parents that want to do things that they also enjoy, we have very often actually is family video game night. And so we play Xbox and we do like a little racing game called Starlet Racer. And my youngest, who's only 6 years old, very routinely wins a lot of the time. So we're just like amazed at how good he is. And he gets bored with it. He's like, I don't want to play anymore because I just beat you guys all the time.
You guys
And so
suck.
even though he gets bored with it, I hope it's something that he remembers and he is able to replicate that with something with his kids if he has any in the future. So yeah, that's a thing for us. But yeah, obviously you can see some of the cosplay stuff in my background, but yeah, we do have some great family memories and pictures. And when they're at a cosplay event or comic convention, they are troops. Like they know their poses and everything. And we have so many people come up and ask us for pictures, and they're ready to go. Even my youngest one, he started when he was like 3. We started dressing him up, and he did fantastic, did the poses and everything. So yeah, those little things, I hope he'll have those fond memories.
It's awesome.
But going on to another dad, we got Arnold on the best list. And what better dad than John Matrix in Commando? Holy shit.
I mean, you look at this guy and you think, is he going to hit me with this log? Is he going to maim me with a chainsaw? No, he's going to come to your rescue as you're human trafficked.
Yeah. So he killed an entire island to get his daughter back and went through extenuating circumstances to do so. Killed a dude on a plane, jumped off the plane into a boggy swamp, then kidnapped someone, forced her to fly a plane to go to said island. But yeah, that's dedication right there. Now, the next one is extremely efficient father. I just want to give a really great example as to why he's an extremely efficient father. So, if you remember from watching at the beginning of this movie, he not only cuts down a tree, he also does karate with his daughter. They then go pet a deer, along with going swimming and having, nice fun time in the swimming pool, like kind of tossing her out of the water and everything like that, along with getting ice cream and smushing it into each other's faces. And then they come back and she makes him a shit sandwich, all in the same morning before lunchtime.
I mean, he's intentional, and intentionality is important with kids. Being able to give them that unadulterated one-on-one time really just connects. And God damn it, John Matrix doesn't do that.
He is so awesome. And not to mention the best dad jokes and one-liners. I mean, you can't be a great dad without having some great dad jokes. And he is the king. I don't think there's anyone better than John Matrix.
I mean, so much fun, so much just hilarity. I mean, just who doesn't love a dad joke? What dad doesn't appreciate a dad joke?
Yeah.
And we talk about intentionality and dad jokes. And you know what this log really was on that day that he did so much with his daughter and he went on the forest and got this big log?
What's that?
They were going canoeing the next day. So he's ready to hollow that bitch out and just make a boat.
Probably.
That's dedication, Holmes.
Until Colonel Kirby came by and ruined his day, ruined his entire week, if you will.
He came with the chopper. The chopper ruined the day.
Not Howard Langston. John Matrix is a fantastic dad. Fantastic dad.
That just means the potential's in all of us to be good fathers, and talk about potential and just so much joy. Daniel Hillard.
Mrs. Doubtfire. I mean, Robin Williams, sorely missed, I would say, because we talk about him fairly frequently when we talk about a comedy movie, and it's like, oh yeah, Robin Williams could have played that part. That's something that always happens. And I was never like a huge Robin Williams fan, but after seeing Mrs. Doubtfire, we got it as a VHS tape for Christmas one year, and I just watched it on repeat. Like that was like probably for a good 2 to 3 years, a solid VHS tape in our rotation. And I would watch it multiple times. And I just found this so funny. And I have a new appreciation for it now. And for Daniel Hillard as a father. Now, I know that they got divorced at the beginning of the movie, but at the same time, he went the extra mile just to see his kids.
Talk about developing his character as a person. He just grew so much. And it was emotional growth. It was, practical effects growth. He learned to really see things from both sides of the gender aisle.
He was kind of like I don't know if lazy dad is the right way to go, but he definitely wanted to be the fun parent, and he didn't really do a whole lot of anything else. As Miranda Hillard said, she's the one that has to clean everything up. But by the end of this movie, or actually by the middle of this movie, he was fantastic at cooking, cleaning, storytelling, and deception. So not only is
he's focused on personal growth. And what better example to give your kids than taking feedback and implementing change? And you go from being the thing that causes your wife anxiety and frustration and out of character outbursts to being the thing that supports her and makes her more calm and comfortable.
Next year, if we do a Mother's Day episode, there definitely should be a worst mothers. And I think Miranda Hillard might be one of them. Because if you go back to our Mrs. Doubtfire episode, which we were celebrating Chris Columbus, the director, not the shitbag explorer, Christopher Columbus. But we basically just kind of point out the fact that she's kind of the bad guy in that movie. You know, she's just not the best mom.
I mean, before you rip Sally Field, if we did a worst and best moms list, she'd be on both. She would be the Arnold of our worst and bad mom list. From Mrs. Doubtfire to Forrest Gump, she can play all parts.
I want to record that episode now because I feel like we could totally talk about that for like half an hour. But Robin Williams as Daniel Hillard and Mrs. Doubtfire, just such a feel-good movie. A sad movie from a parent perspective as I watch it now, but at the same time, there's a lot of redemption there and just a feel-good moment. And what better way to feel good than talk about and reflect upon the best dads out there?
Those are the dads we came here to talk about. The ones that are great and the ones that are terrible. But either way, if you've got a good dad and are a bad dad or want to be a good dad but are a bad dad, if you're a dad, happy Father's Day. We salute you. We feel you. We empathize. We identify. And hopefully you do too.
That wraps it up for another episode of I Can Do This All Day podcast. I am Dan, the part-time Avenger. That's Mark, the resident Jedi.
Remember, if you have any questions or want to join in the conversation, connect with us on our social medias, TikTok and Instagram at I Can Do This All Day podcast, all one word, or send us an email at I Can Do This All Day podcast at gmail.com. We'd love to hear from you. We appreciate your banter. We want to know who you love and who you don't from a daddy perspective. So until next time, Daddy hard.
Happy Father's Day.